Okay. Hi, my name is Jodiana. I am a senior this year. My major is Women and Ethnic Studies with a minor in Student Affairs and Higher Education. Um, I'm from a small town called Swink, Colorado. I went to Otero Junior College and I transferred here to UCCS. Yes, Joseph, that is correct. And if I had to do like a fun fact about me, I have a plethora of fun socks in my drawer right now.
Awesome. How about you, Joseph?
How's it going? My name's Joseph Eubank. I'm also transferred and I transferred, funnily enough, from Otero Junior College. Whoa, small world. So it worked out super well, which is in Southeast Colorado. I lived in La Junta, which is not super well where OJC is, super close to Swink, funnily enough. I am a senior in geography and environmental studies, basically nerdy planet stuff, meteorology, hydrology, geology, all tons of fun stuff like that. I love it. And I'm also a sustainable development minor. I'm really enjoying that as well. And a fun fact about me, I am trying to learn to play the mandolin. And sometimes it makes my cat scream at my door because I think I'm doing it really badly. I like have my door closed and she's meowing outside. It's really funny.
That's awesome. Maybe she just wants to get in.
She wants to join in and harmonize.
All right, go ahead, Shane.
Howdy, everyone. I am Shane Licious. I'm a double major, Bachelor's of Science in Biochemistry, Bachelor's of Science in Biology with a minor in pre-medicine and leadership. That's a lot, but I manage. I'm a transfer student actually from University of Texas, Austin. I went to college 2005 to 2009, went into the military, came back. But kind of a unique thing about me is when you have a kid, you tend to develop really unique ways of, calming them down. So, for example, I do voices. So, King Candy from Wreck-It Ralph. Woo-hoo. It's just something you do to pass the time.
That's awesome. Well, thank you guys all for sharing that. So just some housekeeping things for our audience so that you know you are in webinar format, which means that we cannot see or hear you. However, we do have a Q&A feature as part of this webinar. So I encourage you throughout the presentation, if you have questions, to type those in through that Q&A feature, and then we can ask our panel your questions, or we'll have a little bit of time for questions at the end as well. So just so you know that's there, and don't wait till the last minute to ask your questions. Feel free to be typing them in as you think of them so we can make sure we get to those. But without further ado, I am just going to launch into some questions for our panel. So Jodiana, I'll start with you. What was your experience transferring to UCCS, and is there anything that you wish you had done differently?
Yes. So my experience was a little bit harder, I think. Mostly one, because I had no idea what I was doing with my life, and I changed my major 5 times before I actually decided of what I wanted to do. So I came here to UCCS with about 65 credits from Otero, but they were in all different emphases in like different areas. So I was like in theater, in psychology, sometimes I actually had to take freshman classes, and it just like brought me back a little bit. But because of UCCS, it pushed me even more to even more excel into my classes as well. So definitely wish I would have, chosen a major before I even came here, but that's okay. We found my niche. That's all that matters.
Awesome. Thanks for sharing that. Shane, I'm going to jump over to you. How and why did you pick UCCS?
So I was a captain on Fort Carson with the U.S. Army, and I had a sudden release from military service. Nothing bad or anything like that. I just I wanted to move on with my life, and I had tried a couple of jobs in the couple of months between being released and then enrolling. And I was living in Woodland Park at the time, and I thought to myself, I was like, well, I've already decided to go to medical school. So are there any programs here or nearby that I could go to instead of having to drive to Denver? So I looked into UCCS. I had applied a couple months before I'd gotten out of the military, and I just never followed up on it. But after I did a little bit further investigative work, I found that the pre-health program and the pre-medicine program here at UCCS was actually heavily geared towards the medical school up in Denver, with CU Anschutz Medical Campus. It's a top 35 medical school in the country. And from what I had gathered from my brother, actually, he came here and got his Bachelor's of Arts in History some time ago. And I just picked his brain about it. And then I started looking into the school a little bit, found out that it was very heavily a commuter-based school, which I really appreciated, being, not really the traditional college student that's a little bit younger, that likes to live on campus and stuff. I preferred my own privacy and stuff. So it was great to hear that was accommodating, and the program was accommodating. And I wanted to stay here with my kid. So I chose to come to UCCS. And yes, go Army.
That's awesome. Jodiana, back to you. What is your favorite part of being a UCCS student?
Community here. The community here is just so fantastic. I really do feel like I'm not just another number, that I am a student who people know me by my name. My professors know me by my name. And it's funny that we even asked about, because I'm trying to apply for grad school now, and I can ask my professors to write me a letter of recommendation, which is like the coolest thing ever, which like, and so the community here is just like super close knit. You meet people who you didn't think you would like, that those would be your best friends. I kind of like to make the joke where I met my roommate on a bus at UCCS, and now we're roommates a year later. Like, it's super crazy. You'll never know who you're going to meet here at UCCS, and that's why I think community is like top notch here at UCCS.
That's awesome. And Joseph, if you have anything you want to add to that question, feel free, or that answer, I would say. But on top of that, would you also describe some of the resources that you've utilized at UCCS and what has been your experience?
Yeah, I would love to. To kind of answer that first question about like why I chose UCCS, a lot of my answer does fall in line with what Jodiana said. My sister went here, I want to say 11 years ago now, or however long it's been. And she got her bachelor's in sociology, actually. And I just remember going to, she used to work at the old theater when it was down the hill. They used to have it down the hill in what's now the nursing building. And she used to work at the theater, and she was a manager. And I remember going to the theater at like age 11 or 12 or something, and just like thinking it was the coolest thing in the universe. Just feeling so like transported, and like, oh my gosh, this is like the coolest place ever. And I was a little kid, and it was exciting. But I got to go back and just visit the campus on my own, a few months before I started the semester. And like kind of Jodiana was saying, I felt community there, even though I was not even a student there yet. Like, nobody was harsh or unwelcoming. Everybody was just like, hey, how can I help you find something you want to find? And then when I did transfer to UCCS, from everything from like the student employment offices to financial aid offices to everything in between, they're like, how can we get you connected? How can we help you? And that kind of leads into my thought about like, how have I utilized some of the resources here? The ones that come to mind immediately are like student employment, for example. I'm a transfer student, and I need to have a job if I'm going to be able to survive in college. I'm having to pay rent. I'm having to, pay for gas money and all of that nonsense. And I need to have a job. And so just being able to get connected with one person, like being able to have one email, got me access to like so many different job opportunities, so many different things that I could do. So definitely student employment's been huge. And then I think the other thing that I was going to mention would be like financial aid. If you guys haven't already, like apply for scholarships, apply for financial aid, and ask for questions, man. If you have any questions, they're just like, boom, we can answer that. We can have like a long, day-long email thread with you about this. You can call us, you can come in and talk in person. And they're like, here's a really good resource for you. Here's a really good scholarship for you. And that's ended up with me getting some really fantastic scholarships and made it so that I can even come to UCCS at all. So that has been huge. And then just everywhere you go, CLC scholarship, there you go. Yeah, very good. If you guys are able to get that, and there's just a whole bunch of different scholarships out there. So financial aid, student employment, and then advising, I think. I think we tend to undervalue advising because there's like admissions advising if you need help transferring credits. Like Mary herself is amazing at that stuff. But then there's also once you transfer in, you get hooked up with a specific advisor related to your major. And I've gone in every single semester that I've been here at UCCS, and I said, hey, I just need help looking over my credits. I need to make sure I'm taking the right classes. I need to make sure I'm going to graduate on time. And they're just like, yeah, let's do this. Let's sit down. Let's go through this. And then there's just everything, everywhere you go, there's someone willing to help. There's the library research assistants. There's the Excel centers. There's the connections you get to make with your professors. You get to say, hey, you can email him on a Saturday. I've had one professor, I had Eric Billmeyer, who like, I email him on a Sunday night and he's like, oh yeah, let me get back to this before Monday. So that's not always the case. Professors like weekends too, but just in general, like being able to talk to my professors and be able to get that help when I need it's been super helpful.
Awesome. Thanks, Joseph. So Shane, I'm going to transition to you next. You have served in the military, and as we just saw, you also have a child at home while you're in the process of completing your bachelor's degree. And I know we have quite a few students who are in one or the other or both of those scenarios. So do you mind just sharing a little bit about your experience?
Yeah, absolutely. So, like Mary was saying, this is my little girl, Adelie. Can you say hi? Hi. So yeah, I would, like I said before, having kind of an abrupt release from the military to try and change my life, change my path in life. It was really hard at first. But one, if you're a veteran, and I'm going to go out on a limb and say that Matthew Henry may or may not be military, but there's an office on campus. Okay, it's called the Veteran. Hold on, baby girl. Hold on. Sorry about that. But there's the Veteran and Military Affairs office on campus. I worked in that office for 2 years, and I learned a tremendous amount of other resources that are available to veterans on campus. Veterans and active duty military members, actually. Coming out of the military and transitioning so fast back to civilian life, specifically with the intent of changing something so huge in the academic field, that office was pivotal, absolutely pivotal for me to get my feet underneath me, to adjust my mentality a little bit. I'm not saying that veterans are broken, but we do come out of the military with a little bit different of a mentality that it's real hard charging. It's no silly stuff up front. Let's get this done. Let's get this going. That office provides a nice little space where you can go to class, you can come back, you can talk with other veterans. And it kind of lets you change. It kind of lets you adapt your mentality a little bit it just kind of helps you change your perspective a little bit on basically everything that's getting thrown at you when you come back to school like this. I know it can be a little bit of an overwhelming feeling, but that space was crucial for me to help get my legs under me. Sorry to be redundant. Number two, as a single parent for a while there, there's a lot of resources on campus that I had to utilize. So for example, the Family Development Center is a daycare facility on campus, and they have scholarships for students that are eligible for Pell Grants that aren't eligible for Pell Grants, and I have had to make use of that every single semester. You just fill out forms and stuff like that, and the FDC was able to let me come to school knowing that my child was in great hands, because it's one of the best daycares in the state, hands down, and it let me take classes that at times I normally wouldn't be able to take classes, and I could just trust and rest assured knowing that my kid was taken care of. Another thing to kind of to piggyback off of Joseph, my experience, having a little bit more worldly experience in the military, it tends to benefit people, especially with transfer students, if you've got kids. And in most cases, a lot of transfer students are just a little bit older than most people. And what's really helped me in being a transfer student here and helping my experience overall was that, I was able to approach my professors with this aspect, like, I've kind of been through this a little bit before, so I can actually, please forgive me. I have a house full of animals as well, and they like to play and interrupt. My apologies. So having a little bit more experience, one of the things that really benefited me was being able to approach my professors, kind of like what Joseph was talking about. If you approach your professors with the mentality of like, they're human, just like you, afford them the respect that their stature, their position and whatnot. But if you treat them just the same and you develop a relationship with them, that's been a huge part of my experience here at UCCS. And a lot of the teachers know that I'm a single parent. They know that I'm a veteran. And I try not to let that be the only thing that they know about me. So that's been a huge benefit to my experience, is just making sure that everything keeps on track. And it's just been really super helpful. And I could go on for hours and hours and hours about all the different resources on campus that's available to you, since I've worked here for so long. So put a question in the chat and I'll happily answer a resource question. Sorry.
Awesome. Thanks for sharing all of that, Shane. Jodiana, I'm going to go back to you. How did you plug yourself in and get connected to the UCCS community after transferring?
That's a great question, because I struggled a little bit. I definitely, I know that community there, like I was talking about earlier, it is there. You just have to put yourself out there in order to find it. So the one thing that I did is that I'm also a tour guide on campus. So I applied for that same job, and that's how I found that one community. But the problem that I was having was that I wasn't actually getting out of class enough, like not out of class, out of my house. I had moved in with these two other girls who I didn't really know. I just kind of found this room that was online, and I just was staying in my room for about 3 months or so, just going to class, going to work, coming back home. Wasn't really having like that conversation with people. It wasn't until I started joining even clubs, that I was starting to have like this sense of community. And part of that, I also started talking to students who were in the same class as I was. And, I didn't realize that those people were going to be the ones who were going to help me pass all of my classes, because then you start talking to each other and you're just like, oh, you don't know what you're doing? I definitely don't know what I'm doing. So let's try to help each other. So it's kind of like this year, in the time of COVID, I made a friend because we signed up on the same group presentation and we text each other the entire time. So whenever we text each other, it's just like, oh yeah, we're in the same class. Now I have a friend that I can go meet out for coffee whenever we're just having a bad day, So just being able to go talk to other people. And like I said, I met my roommate on the bus at the shuttle on campus. So that was definitely something that changed my life too. And I'm really happy that him and his best friend are now in my life too. So it's great. So plugging myself in took a little while, but eventually, good stuff came out of it.
And Jodiana, while I still have you, do you mind sharing a little bit about some of the clubs that you are involved with?
Definitely. So I am with the picnic club here on campus with my friend Jackie. She's awesome. I'm also part of Taco Tuesdays. We get tacos almost every Tuesday. Great. I know, Shane. You need to get with them. They're fantastic. I'm also part with the Women's Student Association, and of course, with Mosaic and Me and My People. So I did find a lot of community in a lot of those clubs. Unfortunately, now because I'm taking 6 classes, I have 2 jobs. I can't exactly go to those club meetings anymore. But when I first came to UCCS, those clubs were like vital for me, just to be able to immerse myself like deep in with student life.
Awesome. Thanks so much for sharing that. Sorry, I'm trying to answer chat questions too. So my next question is going to be for Joseph. Have you changed your major in the time that you've been in college? And what was that experience like for you?
Yes, that is an excellent question. I think Jodiana knows this pain too, as she's already kind of talked about. I have, like Jodiana, I started out at Otero Junior College, and I did a lot of, humanities, English, theater. We took a theater class together. That was fun, and I did a lot of just stuff that I was kind of vaguely interested. Stuff I was like, oh, maybe slightly interested in, might do this later in life. And then when I ended up looking to transfer to UCCS, I kind of browsed the majors and minors page end upon end, just trying to think like what's going to fit for me, what's going to work for me. And I ended up picking communications to transfer into UCCS with a communications major. And I was like, you know what? This might not be like the perfect fit for me. This is just kind of like, it'll be convenient, it'll be helpful later on in life, but it's not the thing for me, right? Or it might be the thing for me, but I'm not sure. But then about a month, maybe 3 weeks before classes start in the fall, which is really cutting it close, guys. Don't recommend it. I ended up like, no. I had done some research and I had looked up the UCCS Geography and Environmental Studies website, and everything I'd seen there was just like, yes, holy crap. I looked at class lists, I looked at options like, oh my, how did I not see this? I have always been so intimately connected to like nature and the outdoors, and to wanting to kind of protect that. It's sustainable development in a nutshell right there. And so I saw that, the UCCS website, and I had the thought, it was kind of like a, oh yeah, duh moment, where I'm like, oh, duh. National parks. I've wanted to be like a park ranger, park guide, environmentalist for my whole life, basically, since I was like in elementary school. And so I saw that, I'm like, yes, that is it. So I ended up talking to my advisor, of course. That was the first person I got in contact with, but I also got in contact with one of my scholarship advisors, like one of the scholarships people, just because for a variety of reasons. And both of those people were like, all right, it's 3 weeks until semester starts. How can we do this? It wasn't like, no, Joseph, cut it out. This is a terrible idea. It was like, how can we do this? And that made the biggest difference to me. I wasn't told no, I was told, yes, let's try and do it. And I am here a year later on track to graduate perfectly on time. And I could not be happier. It's been an awesome experience. And geography and environmental studies is my home. Like, I would not change a thing about it.
Well, that was a great answer. Thanks so much. So I just want to give everyone in the audience a heads up. This is going to be our last question. So if you have other questions for these guys, be sure to use that Q&A feature to ask those questions. And you can do that in the meantime while they're answering. So my last question, and this is for all 3 of you, is what advice would you give to future transfer students?
I know it's kind of obvious already, but it's okay if you really don't know what you want to do with your life, even if you are transferring from another university, because I thought I was going to be a theater major. And then all of a sudden, just like Joseph, I had that, oh, duh, kind of moment too, when I learned about they had the Women's and Ethnic program here at UCCS. And Like it's okay to change your major even if you are a transfer student. Like I thought I had to do the same thing the entire time, and then all of a sudden I had a new major, and then I added on a minor because I found something else that I love to do literally 2 months after I was at Otero. So it's okay to keep discovering new things, and don't be afraid to keep discovering those new things.
I'm having a little trouble hearing Shane.
How's that? I think I forgot to put my mic down. Oh, so full of wonderful, embarrassing moments tonight. It's funny how all three of us have pretty much flirted with the same kind of idea. Like, I started as the biomedical sciences bachelor, then that switched to biology, then I added I switched to biochemistry, then added the biology back on. And yeah, I don't be afraid to try new things. I started in the biology program, and for me, it just wasn't enough. And I found, after talking with Lindsay Guthrie, my academic advisor, she was upfront and told me, this is going to be difficult. The biochemistry program is up and running, and it is not easy by any stretch of the imagination. I was terrified. Don't get me wrong, absolutely terrified. But I gave it a shot. She was encouraging. The academic advisor staff, they're all wonderful and giving you the perfect expectation management. But I would definitely, don't be afraid to reach out to other students as well. Like, get into those clubs, find that one's like what we were talking about in the chat. Jodiana was talking about 200 plus clubs, get yourself out there, get your feelers out there. There's got to be something out there that's aligned with your beliefs or your hobbies or your passions and things like that. Like, I'm a part of almost 2 separate clubs on campus. I'm a president for one of them. I didn't expect for that to happen, and I love how involved I am with a lot of the people on campus. It gives me drive to keep going every day. It pushes me to think about things in a new capacity, and it just all around keeps me nice. It's a nice breath of fresh air when I can work with other like-minded students, and it keeps me going in my studies and keeps me motivated no matter what I do. So kind of piggybacking off of Jodiana, just don't be afraid to try something new.
This was a difficult one for me to think of, because Shane and Jodiana have kind of said a lot of what I was going to say. I think that's a common theme. But I think outside of outside of clubs and organizations and outside of, classes and stuff, I think one of the biggest things that has made an impact on me, and something that I would encourage everyone else to do, would be to don't be afraid to speak up, I think is the best way I'd put it. I've made some of the best friendships I've had, not necessarily through a club or an organization, but just for, a student I met in my forest geographies class, for example. Like, there's this dude, Dylan, who I've taken like 5 classes with. And I've been able to get to know that guy because I said, hey, how's it going? I like your coffee mug. And those little moments make a really big difference. Just being able to say hello to the person giving you coffee in the morning, or, being able to sit down, at a table and, just say hi to someone. It makes a big difference. I'm an introverted person naturally. I tend towards introversion. And so that was a big struggle for me, to kind of go out there and say, hey, how's it going? To actually say hi to someone. But it makes all of the difference in the world. It's really easy to feel distant or alone. And I know that's really hard right now, especially to feel distant or alone. So I loved what Jodiana said about texting back and forth with the presentation partner. I mean, that makes the biggest difference, even if it's not face to face. So all of those little moments make a really big difference. So I just look for those when you can get them.
Awesome. So we have another question here. That says, Joseph mentioned a scholarship advisor. Transferring in between semesters has made figuring out scholarships a bit confusing. Is there an easier way to figure this out, or who are the scholarship advisors? So that's an awesome question, which is why I wanted to answer it live so that everyone can hear the answer. So it is confusing to transfer at semester, especially with financial aid. And I kind of share this with transfer students often, is that, okay, so you have two different FAFSAs that you're working on at the same time usually. You have one for the, let's say if you're transferring for spring 21, you have a FAFSA for the fall 20, spring 21 academic year, but then you also have a FAFSA for the fall 21, spring 22 academic year that's due March 1st, or priority date is March 1st. So you're kind of overlapping there. But do send us your FAFSA still, even if you're transferring in the middle of the semester, because if you're eligible for any kind of federal aid, like a Pell Grant or a student loan, that's still going to be available to you, even if you're past the FAFSA priority date. So that's the first thing I would say. If you are a transfer student coming in for a spring semester, you can still apply for scholarships for the fall semester as a new transfer student. So if you're in the portal and you see scholarships and it says must be an incoming transfer student, if you transfer at spring semester, you can generally still receive those scholarships for the following year. And then last but not least, we do generally have some scholarship application assistance events. As we are evolving to the COVID world, a lot of those things are turning virtual. So there's already some resources to help with virtual scholarships, but yeah, at UCCS in general, any of our institution-specific scholarships are going to be awarded for a fall spring academic year. So you might not be eligible to receive a new scholarship for just the spring 2021 semester, but coming into the spring 21 semester doesn't disqualify you for receiving the new transfer student scholarships for the following academic year. So that is definitely important to know. And again, I would say more importantly is knowing that there's people out there that can help you and support you. So if you just email scholarships@uccs.edu, you can get in touch with a scholarship counselor and then they can help you out. Awesome. So another question here, what is an OWL and why do I need to meet with one before I can meet with an advisor? Are any of you three OWLs? No? Okay, cool. I'll just answer that one then. So we have started a new process for our transfer orientations, which was actually born out of COVID, but I think is going to be super fruitful and helpful for our transfer students that maybe have a busy schedule or work life or kids at home and have a hard time getting on campus to our transfer orientations. So the way the spring 2021 orientations are working is you have a registration appointment with an orientation welcome leader. That's what OWL stands for. And that's just where they help you make sure you understand how you can register for classes. So they've already been prepped with your information from your academic advisor. So they have course recommendations that your academic advisor handpicked for you whenever you're in that registration appointment. But they're basically there to be that one-on-one person for you to make sure that you're understanding everything that you need to do to register. And then if you still have, let's say, long-term questions about changing your major or just mapping out your 4-year plan or 2-year plan or whatever that looks like for you, you can always schedule a one-on-one appointment with your academic advisor after you've completed that registration appointment. Awesome. So hopefully that helps. We have some other stuff going on in the chat. If you guys could do me a favor, if you do have more questions, and put them in the Q&A side so I can see them. But it looks like Shane is just blowing up everyone with information. So thanks a lot, Shane. I don't see anything else to add here. So
Kelly actually had a question and I can answer that if you don't mind. So Kelly, the only reason why that I really did resonate with women's and ethnic study and like why I changed my major again is because, like, don't get me wrong, the theater program here at UCCS is absolutely amazing too. But I actually watched some lecture from one of my friends who's also in the West program. And they were talking about this amazing professor who I actually get the honor of having 2 classes with this semester, Dr. Stephanie Rose. and, you know, also taking my West 1010 class. And it was like a reminder of why I was even in some leadership programs that I'm volunteering with too, and, you know, talking about social justice. So what really made me change my major again was having that passion. And, you know, it wasn't about the money really, about like, oh yeah, when I grow up, I'm going to be making this amount of money. I have no idea what I'm still going to do with my major, but I know that I'm going to still be doing something that's probably going to make a change in somebody's life down the road through social justice or through advocating. So really it was my own passion and my own desire to be able to, that really made that decision for me.
And I'll just tack on to that. So the question was, how did you help, or who helped you, or what helped you with switching your major? I think, sorry, who helped you or what helped you pick a major? And I think one thing that I have observed from just the experiences that were shared tonight, but also working with transfer students in general and students in our office, it's super normal to change your major. And the national average is like 3 to 4 times that a college student changes their major. So if you're less than 4, you're below the average. So that's good. But no, I think what I have really observed a lot of is just that kind of personal passion and research. You know, Jodiana did some exploration, talked to some people, got out there, tried something new. Same thing with Joseph. He was doing a bunch of research online. So there is a lot of that should be driven by your own personal passion and interest. But then once you kind of have that ball rolling, there's lots of people that you can talk to on campus to help you with that, whether it's your academic advisor or your faculty members or your employer. So just an encouragement that, you know, that process starts within yourself, but then there's a lot of people around you that want to see you be successful and support you in that goal, whatever it may be. Okay, I don't see any more questions now officially. Just a quick reminder, you can always reach our admissions office by emailing transfer@uccs.edu. And we are operating mostly remotely right now, but we do have a limited amount of social distance campus tours or on-campus appointments if you need them. Otherwise, we can meet with you virtually. So lots of opportunities to get connected with us, but just a huge thank you to Jodiana and Joseph and Shane for being here and sharing your experiences. And yeah, thank you so much everyone for attending tonight and joining us late at night for transfer talks. So you guys have a great rest of your evening, and thanks again to our panelists.